Hey guys, welcome back to Bridgewater Student Ministries. My name is David. This is my friend Shane here, and we're glad that you're here today as we're continuing our series that we're calling Your Story, where we're just talking with some of our leaders and our champions about their story, how God's worked in their lives. And I hope this has been an encouragement and a challenge for you as we've walked through this. And so today we're going to continue that with Shane sharing a bit of his story. And so Shane, if you want to just share with us, a bit of your story, how God worked in your life, and maybe just a little bit of what your life was like.
Yeah, so didn't grow up in a Christian home. Grew up just a normal family. At 5, my parents got divorced. Even at a young age, I remember a lot of the turmoil and stuff that was in the house. So I was like the middleman of that whole situation. So high school, as I got older, I struggled in school as a student. Stuff going on at home, and then I had to go to school and I had to deal with the school stuff. So a lot of anger built up in me, a lot of just confusion. One turning point in my life that was a negative turning point in my life. My mom told me one time that, when I was like 10, that my dad went and got a fertility test with my blood and his blood to see if I was really a son. And that really I basically still feeling it, man. That broke me, man.
Yeah.
That abandonment from your father is like, yeah, it's tough. So all that anger and frustration and just abandonment feeling played a huge part in the rest of my life. So as I got older, I started hanging out with people that weren't good for me or my development. Started smoking a lot of weed. That escalated into doing hard drugs at 16, 17 years old. My school and my sports just fell apart. I got through, but it was barely, and so I don't know. Stayed active in that world probably until I was 22. So 5 years of hard drug use and partying and just getting by in life and going to meetings and trying to get clean and getting clean for a little bit and then going back into it, going to different drug counseling, in-reach and outreach programs for 5 or 6 years. And then one day I was working at Raymond's in the Green, third shift, and I was working with a guy named Kerry Kerrigan. He just recently got saved like a couple years before this, and he knew what I needed, and met every lunch for 6 months, me, him, and a couple other guys, and we just started going over the Bible together and just reading through it, and he started sharing what God could do. And my grandma just passed away, and years before, and she was such a she had such a huge impact in my life when I was younger. I remember one day I was still using, and then all of a sudden I went to the cemetery where she was buried, and I just got down on my knees, and I told God, I'm like, I need you. I can't do it without you, man. I said, I'll do anything. You know how you do that when you're desperate?
Yeah.
You just make deals with God.
Yeah.
And that day, man, he took the urges away. that was a really powerful moment, and I didn't understand the forgiveness yet, and I didn't understand the process that God was going to take me through, but
Yeah.
I just knew that He was real. I mean, I struggled for like 7 years, man. I talked to Justin Bueller at Berean Bible Church out in Green,
Yep.
and I think we ended up having some discussions and figuring out, what steps I needed to take to get baptized. That was great. But it didn't work out the things that were still eating me up from my childhood and my parents, and just the amount of destruction that I caused. I never dealt with the pain from my past, and the forgiveness of myself and forgiveness of others. It really got really hardcore into lifting. I was spending a lot of time at the gym for about 4 or 5 years. Bodybuilding became my drug of choice, and I put everything into that, and I started seeing my soul just kind of slip away again, and I started feeling very distant from God again, and I met this girl at the gym. There was something about her, and obviously I forgot. Yeah, the girl I met was my wife now, but yeah. But she just she was the light that I needed. And I made a deal with God. I'm like, Lord, after I win this show, I'm gonna give my life back to you. So I ended up winning the show, and I stopped competing that same day that I won. And man, God's like, you know what? You're not finished yet, man. So it brought up a lot of issues that were in my life that I never taken care of, and that anger was still there. There was a meanness about me that was still underlined. I did a lot of deep dives into my pain, where the stuff was coming from, why I was still angry, and it just came down to, you gotta forgive, man. You gotta let it go. I had to forgive myself for the destruction and the pain that I've caused other people, and I had to forgive the people that caused pain to me. And I had some tough conversations with people that I love, that aren't believers, that I needed to just, even if they didn't accept the forgiveness in their hearts, that they needed to hear it. And that's only something God can do, man. And then, I got involved in church, got involved in youth group like 5 years ago now. And the reason I got involved in the youth group was I just wanted to be there for young men, so that they didn't have to suffer for 15 years. That maybe I could speak into their lives, because I didn't have that when I was younger. I didn't have people, godly people that cared about me enough to reach in there and try to pull me out of that mess.
I guess my first question, you said you were able to forgive some people in your life, and I was just curious, if you don't mind sharing, if you were ever able to do that with your father.
Yeah, I was able to go down to his house and have a conversation with him. told him that I asked him to forgive me for not being a great son. He never really took ownership of it, of his stuff, but I was able to at least ask him for forgiveness for my stuff.
Yeah.
And after that point,
Did you still say, did you still tell him, like, hey, I forgive you for what you did to me?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I did.
Even though he didn't really own it.
No, he didn't own it, but
Yeah.
I spoke it, and our relationship is much better, but there's still a distance, right? It's hard to, it's not a overnight thing. It's hard. It's just like, your relationship with God. I mean, you gotta work on it. You gotta put work into it to get what you want out of it. I can't take any credit for it. It's just a miracle. It's just something only God can do. It's amazing how God can just reach down into your life and just pull you out of the mess and redeem a broken story. And now I'm able to share my story with people and maybe let them know that, even if they're going through hard stuff right now in their lives, that God can show up at any time, and He will, if you just let Him. And it's pretty incredible, man.
Well, thank you for sharing your story. That was amazing.
No problem, man.
That was really helpful, and I think there's one thing I'd want to pull out of it, if I can, for us who are watching, is just the power of forgiveness, and how, at least it seems to me, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like you weren't able to really make progress until you dealt with that issue of forgiveness, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And I would say that was true in my story too, where I had, not quite as young, but my father walked out on our family too, and I felt like it was until I was able to, I did kind of, it was pretty similar actually, where I sat down with him and said I forgave you, and he hadn't really owned much of it,
Yeah.
But I felt like it was necessary for me, for my own growth, for my own healing, to be able to say, I'm going to move on from this. I'm not going to let this stand between us anymore. God forgave me, and He's commanded me, He's called me to extend that same forgiveness to others. And when you do that, it's amazing how freeing it is, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like the weight it lifts off your shoulder. Because when you're carrying around that pain, it's everywhere, right? It affects everything. Like you can't have a relationship in your life where you're not a little bit angry, a little bit bitter, a little bit, whatever, because you're carrying around this intense weight that you're not meant to carry.
No.
And it's amazing what happens when you just let it go. And so, I guess what I want to say to all of us watching is that there might be some things in your life that were really, really hard that somebody did to you that were just so wrong, and they were wrong. I'm not trying to negate any of that. And it was hard and it was difficult. But until you get to a place of being able to let that go, it'll continue to eat at you. And it's amazing what can happen when you start to deal with those skeletons in your closet. It's amazing if you were to look back at where you were 15, 10 years ago, and if we were then to say, hey, this is what your life is going to be like now in 2024, you'd probably be like, no,
Yeah, right.
that's not who I am.
That? Yeah.
That's not my life, right?
Yeah.
But that's what God did, right?
Yeah.
And I think the same can be true for any of you who are here. God can do some incredible things if we'll just let Him.
Yeah.
If we'll just let Him in, and if we'll just do what He says in His Word. He actually calls us into better things. Forgiveness, man, it's hard, but it's better.
Oh yeah.
When you actually take the steps, it's actually better for you. And there's a number of things like that in His Word that He calls us to that really does make our lives better. And so I'd encourage you, have that conversation. It'll be difficult, it'll be hard, and you'll have to continue to forgive, and you'll have to continue to let it go when it comes to mind. But I think both of us would say it's better for you, and we're glad that we did it. And so Shane, again, thanks so much.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it. Guys, thanks for coming today. Glad that you're part of student ministry, and I hope that today you can begin to have some conversations in your small group where maybe, just maybe, you'll be willing to share maybe something like this. Maybe it's a totally different story. I don't know what your story might be, but if you're willing to share it, I think God can do some amazing things through it. So again, thanks for coming this week. We'll see you next time.